Okay, I decided to make a YouTube video about some work we're doing on the restoration of this 56 Ford T-Bird. You'll notice that we've got the paint done. Still a little bit of polishing that needs to be done on the paint in different areas. But now it's starting to get towards winter time and we need to put the top on. When we pulled the top off of this car, the weather stripping around the bottom of the top where it seals around the back of the car had deteriorated and had stuck to the paint job. We had to chisel it off of the paint job, and it created a very serious problem trying to fix the bodywork in that area for the paint job. So we need to put new weather stripping on the top, and if you've checked on the cost of the weather stripping, you can spend hundreds of dollars in the weather stripping just to go around the top. And the weather stripping that you purchase is weather stripping that was form fitted for the top. Here I have the top upside down, and I've taken the old weather stripping off. Let me just show you what it looked like when it came off. This is a piece of the old weather stripping that came off up in this area, and you can see how it had deteriorated, had melted almost over the years, and you can see portions of the paint from the car as we chipped this old weather stripping off. And I didn't want to replace it with a similar type of weather stripping that would give this kind of problem to someone else down the road as they're attempting to restore this car. And so I did some homework, figured out that there is a weather stripping product that's quite easy to buy. You can locate it at almost any parts store, and it comes in different brands, but basically what it is, it's made for putting weather stripping around a camper shell on a pickup truck. It's made out of EPDM rubber, a synthetic product, but from what I can gather in researching the issue, the EPDM rubber will last for a long time. It's durable. There's not a lot of abrasion that will occur in this. This top gets bolted down to the car when it's being driven. But this is supposed to last pretty well for a long time, and it's not supposed to deteriorate. And so the form-fitted weather stripping comes in a shape, as you can see from the one that I've shown you, that you have this shape that goes down into a groove on the top, and then it flares out, and the actual pieces that touch the car flare out from there. The way it was originally put in, there were screws along it, and then a flap that folded over the screws to keep the screws from coming through and touching the car. Well, this material that I'm putting on is simply flat, doesn't have the extruding portion and nothing to go over the top of the screws. So here's what I'm going to do. As you can see, I have taken a piece of this weather stripping and I've cut it in half. I just cut it right down the center, and it turns out that this 2-inch piece being cut right down the center is just exactly wide enough to fill the groove that is in the top. And so I've cut that and I've put it on simply using the self-adhesive tape. I'm going to use some different adhesion later on, as you'll see. but using the self-adhesive tape, it holds itself into place quite well. And then I'm going back and I'm putting the screws back in. I'm using the same screws that came out, except that I'm putting a washer behind them. And the washer is the kind of washer you can pick up at any hardware store. It's a standard washer for a 5/16 bolt, a flat washer. And so I'm going to put this on, and after I get that all mounted and the screws in it, I will come back and show you what I'm going to do on the next step. Okay, I want to put these screws back in the same holes that they came out of, and luckily this 3M self-adhesion that comes on the back of this rubber material is really quite a versatile product. You can actually take the product up, pull up the product until you find the next hole. I'm doing a very good job of filming, but you pull it up until you find the next hole, and once you found the next hole, I just take a nail, stick it through the rubber, poke me a little hole for my screw to go in, and then put it back down. And see that 3M stickum on the back of that rubber will go right back down, and it still holds, and it will hold as well as it did before you pulled it up. It doesn't hurt the stickum to pull it up. I use a similar product when I'm painting to hold 3M paper. They call it their stick-it paper, and you can take it off of your sanding block, put a different kind of sanding block or sanding paper on, and stick it back on, and that, or take the same one and put it back on, and that stick-it product, whatever it is, will go right back and glue itself back down as well as it did before you ever pulled it up. Now you see I put my screw with the washer on it, just putting it back in the same hole. I don't know if you noticed, but I took that screw before I started putting it into the rubber, and I dipped it in oil. The reason for doing that is if you don't dip it in oil, that screw will grab this rubber product and twist it and turn it. You don't want that to happen. You want it to go down into that groove just straight and flat like that. Okay, now I'm going to finish doing all those and then I'll come back. Okay, I want to now put a piece of the weather stripping, the wide weather stripping, over the top of the narrow weather stripping that I have screwed down to the top, so that the wide weather stripping now will sit flat and will also cover the screws in the narrow weather stripping. I want to adhere this new piece to the old or to the bottom piece of weather stripping. And so what I'm going to have to do, I've tried just using the 3M tape adherence that's on the back of the material, and while you can see that it holds quite well, it comes apart easier than I would like it to come apart. So I'm going to try something else and we'll see how it works. As you can see, I've put down a strip of 3M weather strip adhesive on top of the piece that goes into the groove. I've also, this is the weather strip of adhesive that I've used. Very good product. This comes in either yellow or black. If I were buying it for just this project, I would have done the black, but since I already had the yellow, that's what I'm using. I've also put a strip of the yellow weather strip adhesive down the center of the rubber piece that will go on top. Let that kind of set to become tacky for a few minutes, and then I'll put it on the top and we'll be ready to go. I have the rubber glued down with the weather stripping cement all the way around. On the corners, when I went around the corners, it puckered up a little bit, and I just took a pair of scissors and made a slice there. I could trim that slice, but I don't think it's necessary. This rubber is sufficiently soft that it won't cause a problem. Now, some people have asked me what the black strip is that is around the top. Let me just show you. There is, running around the top, there is a chrome strip that has a groove in it in order to take another piece of weather stripping of some kind. What I have used there is I took some normal black vinyl, like you would make seat covers out of, made a piece of welt cord using that normal black vinyl, and then I cut off all but about 1/16 of an inch of the end of that welt cord and just glued it into that chrome channel using the 3M weather stripping cement. That will give me a good firm seal all the way around the outside of this top when I put it on the car.